All right, Niamh, we're here at Stamford Bridge. And Chelsea's next two games are here as well, which is very exciting. You've got obviously Manchester United on Sunday and Real Madrid next week. Your first half of the season was brilliant, by the way. Big fan. There's lots of love for you on the pod as well. You've had a lot of praise. What do you think has given you the extra 10% this season? You know, or do you think people are just maybe paying more attention to your performances? Have they just not been paying attention?
I don't know. That's up to someone else, but I think it's probably just been time. Like, it's been something that's been building and I've been working hard, and yeah, I think I've said it before. I wanted it all straight away, but it's definitely a process and I've still got a lot of work to do. But it has just been time on the training pitch, and yeah, gradually got a bit better.
A bit better. God, that's putting it mildly. I feel like especially towards the back end of last season, you really massively stepped up.
Mm-hmm.
Did it feel like when the season, I know obviously you're at England, but did it feel like that kind of end of season came at the worst time?
To be honest, thinking back is so hard. I couldn't even tell you the end of last season what it was like. But I do remember towards the end, I did get in a good flow and a good rhythm, and I think the team did as well. We were sort of game to game to game. We had really good momentum and flow. So yeah, it was a nice feeling actually to be at the end of the season and for things to be sort of flowing, and we had some good momentum. And I think that's all you can really ask for at the end of the season. But yeah, maybe a few more games would have been nice.
You're, of course, facing a hugely important week and without Sam Kerr as well, which is so gutting. What was that like, maybe for the team when that happened? And it's another thing, I guess you guys are known as mentality monsters, but it's a new challenge for you guys to face, I guess.
Yeah, it was absolutely gutting. Anytime anyone does that, it's just gutting from a football perspective, of course, because she'll be a huge miss. She's unbelievable, but also from we all love her so much, and yeah, she's a really good friend, and you just don't want to see someone going through that. So I think from both sides, it was, and it still is. It is heartbreaking, and it's sad to see, but of course we'll all be round her and yeah, support her on this journey 100%. And I think we have a good enough squad that it's going to be different, but we've trained so hard that if anything would happen to anyone, we can sort of deal with it. And I think we all know that injuries are a part of football. It's the worst part of football, but when it happens, it's not to be expected, but you have to sort of react. And I think how we react will be really important.
Maybe you guys are better at kind of reacting to it than those of us on the outside. I guess as well, you've stepped up in when players have been injured previously, and Guro was out. That your side of the pitch as well. I felt like you stepped up again. Do you feel that kind of maybe pressure, I guess, when maybe your talisman that you're normally sending balls into is out, or do you feel like that depth in the squad, you're going to be okay?
I think that's something ever since I've been here, it's been about the squad. So no matter who plays, that we have people coming off the bench, starting, the rotation's always been there. So I think we're quite well prepared for that. But of course, when Guru was out, I really enjoyed playing with her. So I did miss her, and I'm really happy she's back as well. But I think even during that time, the people that played did unbelievably. They brought their qualities to it as well, which is what I really like. They can play their own way and play really well. So I think, yeah, I'm happy she's back for the strength of the squad as well, and I really do enjoy playing with her.
Yeah, your connection is amazing. Man United, you've shut out Man United in both of your last meetings with them in the league in March and the FA Cup final. What's been the key to those performances, do you think? Because I feel like for them, you were their final hurdle, if you like.
I think well, they're an amazing team. They've got goals in them. We really respect them, and I think on the day we know that they have that, so we need to be really on it defensively. And yeah, I think we do pride ourselves on that, and that in a long season like this, that those really do add up, and sort of being able to keep clean sheets, which we know we need to keep more of. They make the big difference come the end of the season. So for sure, when they come here, yeah, we'll be looking to do that again. But again, we know how good they are, and they've got threats all over the pitch as well. So yeah, it'll be a tough test.
They always feels like two titans when you play these kind of matches. But to be honest, I guess the league has stepped up again this season, and every game is harder, arguably. But still, do playing the top 3 teams, top 4 teams, I mean, you're in the top 4 teams, does it have an extra edge?
I think when our aim is to win the league, every game like you have to go into it and not think about any other game. So this weekend it'll be United, and that's the most important thing, and then come the next week it'll be that game. But of course you want to play in, these are the big games with the big fan bases, and yeah, that's really exciting. But that's not to say I don't enjoy other games just as much as well. I think they all bring different tests, and I really enjoy this test, but as well as the others. I think the beauty of trying to win a league is like you can afford very few slip-ups as well, so it really keeps you on it and honest throughout the season.
Yeah, and I think over 20,000 tickets sold now, or expecting over 20,000 at the game. You know, we've spoken to you about your fan base before. Emma's talked about them a lot. Manchester United have a great fan base as well. How much is that going to affect the game, or, you know, add to the game when you've got those two kinds of fan bases who are loud, who sing in Stamford Bridge? How good is that going to be?
Yeah, I think when I sit in the stands at games and then I see it from both sides, I really appreciate when the fans sort of get behind you, and when there's a really good atmosphere, it drives you on as players. And yeah, hopefully our fans can sort of, the United fans I know are really loud, but hopefully our fans will outsing them and create a really, really good atmosphere, because that adds to it as well. As part of the women's game is sort of growing on the pitch and off the pitch as well, in terms of selling more tickets as well and becoming a really sustainable business.
Do you like that rivalry as a player on the pitch, when you hear fans, you know, chanting back and forth at each other, or maybe booing players, or does that like just drive you on further on the pitch?
Yeah, I think there's a part of me that completely shuts off to it, and I'm just like, what is happening within the pitch as well. But then there are times when it's just, I really like it when someone does like a really good tackle, and I love when the fans love that. That's the side of football that I think is really good in England. Like, we don't just celebrate the amazing maybe shot or goal, it's the slide tackle, last ditch tackle. I love when fans get behind that.
Yeah, or when you like break up the pitch and suddenly the whole crowd thinks, oh my god, something's going to happen,
and you can hear the seats sort of go because everyone starts standing up.
I love that. Yeah. You were the youngest starter in that Champions League final back in 2021. That is a great stat, producer Finn. Well done.
I didn't even know that.
But in the away leg at Real Madrid in November, you look like, you know, the experience there, completely different. Like, you looked so experienced on the pitch. How much do you think experiencing different teams and different styles of play, I guess, outside of the WSL has helped develop you within it?
Yeah, I think that's why I joined Chelsea. I think it's to appreciate different cultures, different style of play. And I think when you play the WSL at the weekend and then you play in the Champions League, it keeps you on your toes, because you have to think, it's the WSL, what does that bring with it? And then you have to sort of change your mindset to the Champions League, different style of play, who, when you play in the league year in, year out, you do get to know teams to a certain degree. Whereas each year in the Champions League, there's different tests. Maybe you play teams that you never played before. So that's a really exciting part of it. And for us to go away with the Champions League nights, I really enjoy them. And I think it's where this club wants to be, competing for the biggest trophies. And I think, they're pretty special. It's
I'm sure you're quite enjoying being the only English team in the Champions League, but from a WSL perspective, it does feel like the further English teams go and experience it, it kind of brings it back to the league as a whole as well. It means teams have to challenge harder when they come up against you, and kind of further develops the league as well. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think so. And I think England, the success of the Lionesses, I think, has also helped with that, in terms of these little things, where whether it's drawing in a Champions League audience or drawing in national team fans to back to the WSL. Again, it just brings that week in, week out. I think that's how you build a really good business, is week in, week out. You're getting the fans, you're getting the attention, not just for the big games, for every single game as well. And I think you've definitely seen that this season, that every game the attendances have increased, and also that's kind of shown on the pitch as well. There's been upsets you can't expect, so every game is interesting, and I think that's really exciting. So hopefully with the success of the Champions League, hopefully the continued success of England as well is only going to help.
And of course Champions League means more games at Stamford Bridge as well, which does it ever get old playing here?
No, I think coming here, when you come out, and the whole thing about when the Champions League music starts playing as well, there's something about it, like, it's pretty priceless, and if you're not already up for the game, it gets you up for the game. And being here, this is the club, like the home of the club, and I think it's pretty special, and hopefully we can create sort of a fortress here, and as we do I think at Kingsmeadow as well, hopefully we can bring that here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fair to say Kingsmeadow is a difficult place for any opposition team to come to, and I think Stamford Bridge is getting that way as well. I know we touched on the Barcelona final there. Your experience of that pace of the game. I mean, you've experienced it playing against Spain, I imagine as well. Is that kind of pace of football? Is there anyone you ever come up against in the Champions League that, other than maybe them, has been as tough at that kind of pace of football?
I do think the Spanish teams in general, there's obviously individuals that are extremely quick that you come up against that you have to be really on it. But I think in terms of the holistic pace of the game, I think the Spanish teams probably, and the French teams really. I just think that there's individual teams in Champions League that really play tiki-taka football, like it's 1 and 2 touch. But then you also have pace of the game where you have one quick forward who's going to completely take the ball and run and sort of beat you all. So there's different ways to be sort of really explosive. But I do think the Spanish teams that you come up against, it's ingrained in their DNA, and I think it's that's what I say about it's really nice to play against those, then go back to WSL where it's a different form of sort of playing football, different culture. But yeah, definitely the Spanish teams probably pretty consistently. There's obviously other teams as well, but I think pretty consistently the Spanish teams.
But for your position as well, though, playing against that style of football, like knowing the timings of when to go forward and when to stay back, you know, it must be quite difficult in that particular position, playing against that type of football and getting your timings right. You must learn fast.
Yeah, I think when you're playing the game, if it happens once, you're like, oh, right, that's a warning and it can't happen again. But I just think across the pitch, when you're playing against that pace in the midfield, there's things that'll be happening that they'll be thinking, oh, that's quick. Or if it's tiki-taka, for example, they're moving so quick, so the midfield, it's really hard for them to pick up. Whereas if it's a pacey forward and behind, it would be sort of the defence and the fullbacks that they've got to be really switched on to sort of dropping if there's pressure on the ball. So I think getting that right in each individual game, it's tactically, like, it's enjoyable to sort of be able to nullify those threats in different ways and subtly change the way we play for each game. So that's why it's so interesting, as it's no 2 games the same sort of thing. And yeah, I just think some games we've played where the midfield have really had the battle and like bossed it in the end. Like you just go through so much like ebbs and flows in the game with momentum and stuff. And yeah, it's a proper battle.
Is there anybody who plays in the same position as you that maybe around the WSL or even Europe that you've looked at or enjoyed the way they play or taken anything away from the way they play?
I wouldn't say I look. To me, my lessons have definitely come within Chelsea and obviously at England as well. The first one you think of is Lucy Bronze. Like, she's been colossal for years and years and years, and I think the way I want to play is to be the best version of me. But 100%, there's things you can take that they do extremely well, that their strengths. But I think if I can just think of like within Chelsea, there's across the back line, I can think of Maren and Jess, who individually have things that they're so like the best in the world at, that I can look at day in day out and train, and not just in the games, and think I want to take that, or oh, she's really good at that, why is she good at that? And I think that's been really good for me to sort of see those things that they're consistently really good at. It's not just like one time by chance they were good at it, it's like they back themselves on it. And yeah, I think that's been really good for me to sort of break down the little parts of the game and see what they're really good at and try and take that and try and learn from it as well.
That sounds like Chelsea as well, that not doesn't happen overnight. It's not one good thing. It's a long-term working hard, putting it together and seeing the outcome and seeing the result.
Yeah, I guess it's the same for every team, but I think for us it's definitely a whole season thing, and then when you come back in pre-season, it's day one again, and you have to sort of, I think that's a great mentality of, right, that's in the past now, we're going to have to earn it again. And I think this league keeps you really honest, that if you'll be found out quick if you're not sort of up to it. And yeah, I think it's our job as players to make sure we're doing that day in, day out on training as well, and not just coming to a match day. There's
a reason mentality monsters is probably one of the most used phrases on this podcast. Say it all the time when we talk about you guys, but it is so true. I feel like that's an area that maybe not enough is talked about. We probably talk about it enough with Chelsea, but kind of across with the teams is the mental side of the game, and how you stay switched on and how you when you're 1-0 down. And we were talking to Johanna Wright in Cannerid, and she was saying we just didn't think we weren't going to score. We just knew we were going to score. And it's just it's a mindset, right?
Yeah, and I do think you have to keep doing that. It's just because we had it a few years ago, it's a consistent thing you have to work on, and the influence that it has in a game is massive. I think you can't see it, you can't necessarily measure it in stats or whatever, but the mentality a lot of the time is the difference individually and with the team, and I think that's something that we pride ourselves on definitely, and we felt when it makes the difference, and I think that's something that we really, really want to keep.
Emma Hayes, for you, it feels like she's had, a big impact on your career. She brought you to Chelsea just before the treble-winning season in 2020 and changed your position too. There's still another huge 6 months, of course, for her. But, if there's one lesson that you'll remember from your time working with her once she's moved on, what will it be?
What will it be? The lesson would be about it's the standards that you create over a period of time. It's not you just turn up and it goes well this week. I think that's the biggest thing, is it's and I've been on the receiving end of that. I think when I referred to, again, I'm just eager and wanted it all the time, and it doesn't happen overnight. For her, it's been years and years of sort of building the foundation from the ground up, and I think I can take that and approach it to my own individual thing for the continued success of the club, hopefully. That it's the things that you do every single day, making sure that they're right and fighting in multiple different directions. It's not just what you do on the training pitch, it's how you're progressing the club off the pitch as well. I think that's something she's been really, really good at, and hopefully we can continue that.
Do you feel like you're a very forward-looking team? Like, you take one game at a time, but once it's done, you don't sit too long in that and get comfortable. You're looking forward again and looking at areas and to improving.
Yeah, for sure. She's been really good at, the games have come thick and fast for us, so you do need to move on quick. So it's getting that balance of not looking too far ahead, but also moving on really quick. And I think she's been really good at that. But also in terms of what she's built at the club, is she's been forward thinking in terms of the menstrual cycle. I think when players come to the club, they say sort of how detailed it is around like the holistic approach to how we're looked after, how they approach the game, and I think that's something that I hope we can keep, that it's sort of the multifaceted, multi-directional approach that I think's pretty unique at the moment, and hopefully it comes across the women's game. But yeah, I do feel fortunate that that's the case, and that we're always looking for those little areas to improve, and we've definitely put the staff in place and the players to hopefully make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And then taking it back from the macro to the micro, hoping all of that's perfectly in place for the game this weekend.
Yeah, hopefully. I think, yeah, as I say, like we work one game at a time. So obviously it was just West Ham, and now the full focus will be on United. And then you think, I didn't even think about Real Madrid, but you've obviously brought up, then it'll be the quick turnaround to Real Madrid. But yeah, looking forward to this weekend. It'll be full focus on that, and hopefully we'll have a few good days on the training pitch, and yeah, can't wait for it. Really excited.
Brilliant. Well, best of luck. Thank you so much for joining us, and joining us on Upfront as well.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.